Bioshock is a game with several interesting mechanics. For one, it uses voice logs as lore collectibles that give the player more information about the world while they're fighting and exploring in it. This allows narrative exposition to be delivered during gameplay and changed how stories were told in many games that came after it. And while it's not looked at as favorably, the hacking minigame provides a nice change of pace and gameplay that allows the player to manipulate the environment in ways that just aren't possible in other shooters. While it is more limiting than the more systems-heavy immersive sims, Bioshock still allows the player to get pretty creative with how they approach encounters. One way it does this is by tying one of its progression vectors directly to these encounters. While playing through it, Bioshock doles out tools to add to your arsenal at a good pace. These range from the weapons like a pistol or a shotgun to crazier powers called plasmids that can make enemies spontaneously combust or turn on each other, among other things. One of the most unconventional tools actually appears fairly early in the game and doesn't deal any damage at all. Despite this limitation, the camera in Bioshock quickly becomes one of the player's most valuable possessions. This is because of the highly useful rewards that it gives them access to. If the pictures taken have an enemy in the frame, they contribute to research of that enemy. Once enough pictures have been taken, this research level increases, providing a bonus to the player. In this sense, the research mechanic serves as Bioshock's version of a more traditional leveling system that you'd see in other games. Focusing the leveling on each enemy individually, rather than the player themselves, allows bonuses to come in different orders for each player, providing a distinct experience for everyone that plays. It also forces the player out of their comfort zone by centralizing this form of progression around a mechanic that is not necessary to defeat enemies directly. Most games that feature experience or leveling systems give rewards passively in the background for doing what any player would normally do, mainly attacking and killing enemies. By shying away from this approach, Bioshock tries to get them to actively contribute to long-term goals and bonuses through utilizing the camera when they otherwise wouldn't need it. On top of this, not every photo is created equally. When one is taken, it's assigned a letter grade of A, B, or C based on its quality. With a high letter grade comes a bigger benefit. In this case, a larger amount of research progress towards the enemy photographed. How you get these higher letter grades is another way Bioshock incentivizes getting players out of their traditional flow. They are determined by a number of factors, including whether the subject of the photo is alive, had their picture taken yet, how close they are in the shot, if there are multiple in the same photo, and if they're acting hostile by moving towards or attacking the player or another enemy. You'll notice that the ones that put the player in a more vulnerable position contribute more towards the letter grade and therefore research. This incentivizes them to get up close and personal with the denizens of Rapture in the middle of combat to maximize the research bonus. It's really cool because it raises the skill ceiling for leveling to a higher level, more comparable to games in other genres where the goal is to set a high score. And ultimately, players will engage with the mechanic because of its rewards. Each enemy in the game, including Little Sisters, has 5 tiers of research to progress through. Most of these rewards follow a standard template, but it doesn't make them any less valuable. Tiers 1, 3, and 5 provide an increasing damage bonus against the researched enemies. Keeping most of the tiers similar also makes them easier to develop, as completely unique reward paths don't have to be considered and implemented for each enemy. Tiers 2 and 4 provide a wider variety of bonuses, including new and upgraded gene tonics, which act as equipable passive benefits. In addition, there are bonuses specific to fighting each enemy, like having them drop more loot or become easier to hack. A more traditional benefit comes from researching the Little Sisters, as they provide base increases to health and Eve, which acts as the game's form of mana. This mixture of passive rewards that impact different gameplay areas keeps each new research tier exciting to progress through in anticipation of what bonus could come up next. The camera and research photos are also contextualized in the world of Bioshock, making them feel less gamey and more immersive than traditional leveling systems. This largely comes down to framing leveling in a diegetic fashion, using aspects like the camera and terms like research. Diegetic in this case meaning something that occurs within the context of the narrative or game world. Most games that feature these leveling systems utilize non-diegetic abstractions, like experience points that fill up experience bars. And these are perfectly useful to indicate a player's level of progress in the game. Bioshock even has them too, but it also applies diegetic aspects to them. For example, you initially find the camera by breaking into an interrogation observation room in a jail, and are tutorialized on it by snapping a pic of a splicer in the interrogation room itself. It makes sense that taking and studying photos of enemies would give someone more knowledge about how to defeat them. It also makes sense that a camera would use film as its ammo type. After this initial sequence, it's utilized in several levels to complete tasks for and gain access to important characters in Rapture. This grounds the mechanic and its resulting progression in the game world by connecting the player's actions directly to the story, creating a more immersive experience. The research camera in Bioshock gives the game the benefits of a leveling system without feeling like it has one on the surface. It does this by grounding the experience of using the mechanic in the game's world, and it distinguishes itself even further as it rewards the player with valuable benefits for actively using it in situations where they put themselves in vulnerable positions. This leads to players changing their behavior in combat and how they approach encounters overall. In a game with such a heavy focus on distinct setting and narrative, it's these aspects that make the research camera stand out.